Oh wow. I'm looking at. See, I have a tendency to want to look over here because that's where I am. There's a screen here, and hello, I'm Thomas Willeford. I also can see there what you guys see, and this is my Steampunk 101. I'm gonna occasionally check here to see. Do you book a hotel with our original date? No. Okay. Other information on there. See if anyone's asking questions, that type of thing. Feel free to ask questions. I love it when people ask questions. Makes it a lot easier. Keeps me from just blathering on about stuff nobody cares about. I'm going to answer a question nobody... Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad it looks good. Got all my equipment going here, so... I'm going to answer a question that none of you have asked me just yet, and that is how I got into steampunk. So I was an early adopter when it comes to the steampunk subculture. Probably about 1988 was when I got into it. And I was into Victoriana. Love Victorian stuff. My grandparents had a huge Victorian house. And I had a little steam engine next to my bed that powered a little electric light. And there was all kinds of cool stuff. But steampunk itself, getting into it, was because of a game. I think I'm going to pull it up. Game was called Space 1889. It was a how did they call it? They didn't use the term steampunk. They said science fiction role-playing in a more civilized time. And I loved it. I literally went nuts. I bought every book. I had no money. Bought all the books, all the games. You were 5 back then. Oh, God, I feel really old. All the games. The original first game that came out was called Sky Galleons of Mars. It's aero naval flying ships firing cannons at each other and blowing each other out of the sky. And you had rules of movement and how to fly over and under and rules for collisions, which was awesome. So you ram the other ship. By the way, if you're a small ship and you're ramming a large ship, it's just going to suck. It's not, you're not going to like it. Bang, ow. But it was such a cool game. I had a great time. You see the artwork on the cover. Sorry I couldn't get a better picture in time. And they came up with a whole bunch of books. Frank Chadwick was the writer of this. Supposedly he didn't want to write this. He wanted to write a war game, but he couldn't sell the war game. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, playing that at C.O.G.S was awesome. I want to do it again soon. You know, the next C.O.G.S, I want to run another game. I'm actually building ships so we can have more interaction. Yes. I still have copies of these games, so trust me, I'm like, whoo! And it was such a good... There was no magic in this game. So, another game that came out, and I don't have a picture for that one. This one really got me into it, and this was in 1988. Another game that came out was called Castle Falkenstein. And that one was really cool because it's like Sky Galleons of Mars, not Sky Galleons of Mars, Space 1889 with elves and dwarves and magic. And it was pretty darn awesome. I played that one a lot too. That was in 1990 something. The weird thing is nobody would play with me. Everyone was busy playing Magic the Gathering. That's and later on, another game that came out, I think in 95, BBC Canada here. Found this link from yeah. Oh, hey! Another game that came out after that was called Deadlands. Deadlands was awesome. It was a horror-based game. All the same stuff. You had magic. You didn't have elves so much, but you had magic, science fiction, and eldritch horrors in the Wild West. It was 1876 to 1877 it's supposed to take place. And it was a great game. It was a much grittier game than the other two. Yeah, Deadlands, awesome game. There's a game that came out that almost nobody heard of. It was printed by a very small print, and it was called Wooden Suits and Iron Men, and it was a steampunk game of giant robots and steampunk giant robots, and that's all it was. And that was awesome. And you had, you build your giant robot and have to go against the other giant robot and crashing into each other and everything. Yes, my Vault Tech cup. But that's how I got into steampunk. And I hear people say how they got into it, either through fashion, the literature. The games really just excited me because I was a huge gamer nerd at the time. Still am. I just don't have anyone to play with. Sad face. Yeah. Eddie's looking at me like, "Fuck you, Thomas." No, we play occasionally. We just don't have time. It's mostly we have lives that require us spend a lot of time. Oh yeah, giant robots. Actually, I built. Can you get that model for me? The robot model. So, speaking of giant robots, I built a giant robot. If you want to look it up, go into Google and look up Steampunk Giant Robot. And presently, the giant robot I built for the Steampunk World's Fair is in upstate New York and is now a roadside attraction, which is kind of, oh my god, I made it. Here's the robot I made for the game Wooden Suits and Iron Men. I made a kit so people could buy the kit and make their own robot like this. The idea is that you're about that tall and you climb in. There's even a door. Where's the door? Oh, on the front there, a little door for him, everything. Yeah, thank you, Eddie. Yeah, the giant robot was based on that model. The giant robot I made for the World's Fair was based on that model. So here's what happened. Here's how the giant. Want to know how the giant robot happened? A little Steampunk 101, Steampunk history here. I was minding my own business, and I got a call from the people who ran Steampunk World's Fair, and they said, "Oh my God, there's a TV show wants to do." It was called Shipping Wars. Wants to put us in it. They said, "Can you make something?" And I did what I always do. I just said, "Oh yeah, sure, I can make something." And I said, "How about a vehicle?" And they said, "We've done that." "How about a little building?" "We've done everything I said." No. And I literally said, "What do you want me to do? Build a giant frickin' robot?" And the people from the Shipping Wars said, "Can you build a giant robot?" And I went, "Oh yeah, I can build a giant robot. Yeah, sure. All right, yeah." And then I got off the phone and going, "What the heck am I going to do? I don't know how to build a giant robot." Then I remembered that I had this little model robot that was laser cut. And it was made of 1/16 inch. It's about a foot tall. And about 1/16 inch material. And I did the math in my head. If I times that by 16, I can make it out of 1 inch material. Or 3/4 inch with a 1/4 inch piece. And that way, I could design a giant robot. Because they wanted a design in 3 days. So, I modified my model. Oh yeah, I made the giant robot. Yeah. Thank you. Someone said they didn't realize it. Oh. And I'll get to your question about is it big in the UK. Steampunk is huge in the UK. In fact, one of my favorite events over there is the Whitby Steampunk event. Yes, I did the math in my head. But I built the giant. I showed them a model in 3 days, and they were like, "Man, you're fast." I'm like, "Oh yeah. I had that model for like 10 years. I just modified it a little bit, painted it up, and then I built it. I used laser cut patterns to make a router follow because I couldn't laser cut the 3/4 inch material, and that's how I got them all smooth, and that's why everything looks very precise. Is because it's all done with it's all done on the computer and laser cut pieces. Yeah, holy poppers, yeah. Yeah, I've done a bunch of events over in Europe, and what happens, honestly, sometimes here I kind of get a little like, people aren't trying as much. Maybe I start feeling sometimes a little bit down about, people, because it goes in waves. Then I'll go over there and they'll have brand new stuff. People in Europe are getting, they'll just say, look at this cool thing I made. They're being so much more inventive. I think that it got hyper commercialized here. There was too much Etsy, too much regretsy, more like it. Too many horrible things. People saw money and suddenly just monetized it. And money's not evil or anything like that. But the people in Europe were still making more stuff. And I just loved it. And they were utilizing materials that we didn't use as much. They had more antiques to use, I guess. They were also less religious about antiques. They would take an antique and destroy it to make something. Whereas a lot of people here would be very puritanical. Oh, no, you can't ruin that piece of history. The problem with that piece of history is they made so many of them, it doesn't have any actual value, or not a lot. So you're about to give it value. When I had somebody say that about my Vespas. You're destroying history. I'm like, these things were probably going to be scrapped. They were barn finds, or pieces that have been beat up, and now they have new life. And I've got people saying, "Hey, want to sell that Vespa?" I'm like, "No, you can't buy my Vespa." Notice how I managed to wheedle the word Vespa into my panel, no matter what. That's very important. Let's see if there's any other question. Regretsy. That needs to be put on a shirt. Splendid day out. Yes. Big in the UK. The Asylum in England is a great event. I wish they'd invite me over, bring me over, maybe cover my hotel. I'd fly over if they do that. That's because Tinker is tight. Damn it. Hey, Tinker, if you're watching, I'm right there. I'm ready to come after this is all. By the way, all of you, social distancing. It's a thing. For real. Do it. Notice I'm not at a convention. I'm not going to any conventions this year, most likely. I have been making some steampunk masks that have been selling well. I'm not overselling them. I'm making them. Getting materials is very difficult right now. Anyway, that's my plug for that. Hold on. Here's another minor plug. Any other questions before I blather on about some other stuff? One of the great things that happened with me in steampunk is I got offered to write books. I've written 2 books on making your own steampunk stuff. One of them is the Steampunk Gear, Gadgets, and Gizmos. Just press the button, it'll show the book in a heartbeat. Well, in a few seconds. There's about a 20-second delay. But Steampunk Gear, Gadgets, and Gizmos was my first book ever. So, a little short story about how I ended up doing that. Try the European tour, maybe. The Dutch have had me. The Dutch are lovely. I've been over there for their Dutch steampunk event put on by the Steampunk Initiative. Look it up, Steampunk Initiative. Incredible people. Paul is awesome, and they brought me over about 2-3 years ago, and I had an incredible time. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to that. Steampunk Gear, Gadgets, and Gizmos was the thing I'm most proud of. And people say, "Oh, you've done television, you've done this and that." That is it. That's the thing. I'm just like, you've got to be. This is so awesome. Because I'm highly dyslexic, just insanely so. And the idea that I got to write a book is, I've always wanted to. When I was younger, I was told I'd never write. And I got to write a book. They called me. Well, here's what happened. I got a call, and the guy, hello, and it said, "Do you want to become a published author?" And I thought, who the hell is... And I hung up. I was like, piss off. I hung up. And I went about my day, because I'd heard there was a scam about that. Minding my own business, and suddenly I get a call. It says from McGraw-Hill. Like, what? Did I forget a college textbook? Hello. And I said, "Hi, I'm, Roger Stewart from McGraw-Hill. And I was wondering, are you rejecting our offer?" I was looking up Roger Stewart, and it's like, Lord High God of publishing in West Coast McGraw Hill. I'm like, no, that was my assistant. I'm having him flogged. How can I help you? And they start describing, can you write a book? And I did what I always do. Oh, sure, I can do that. And then I get off the phone and Dunning-Kruger my way through the whole thing. Oh my God, how am I going to do this? And the first book took off really well. A gentleman named Mark Donnelly, who owns Cain's and Abel. Not Cain's Enabled, Cain's and Abel. If you want cool Cain's, cool steampunk stuff, Mark Donnelly, Cain's and Abel, good thing. He had written several books, and he had lived across the street from me. And he said, look, no problem, help you out. And we wrote the book together. He taught me how to write. My second book was written by just me. And because Mark was unavailable. And I had a great time writing it. The second book is much easier projects, actual and easier to work with materials, foam, plastics, things like that. The first book had metalwork, woodwork, but it tells you how to do all of it. Let's see.
Do you need me to monitor comments and stuff?
No, it's all right. I'm just safe now. It was a link. Okay, sorry, just looking at things, making sure there's not a question I'm ignoring and stuff. But the second book is foam and plastics, and it was designed to be a kid's book. Although I've noticed most of the people who read it are over 30. Crap out of your book! Yay! Thanks. Signing my copy. I was thrilled to meet you at Key City. I was the girl with the octopus on your head. Oh, yeah, I remember you. Thank you. Sorry, there's a distraction. There's a FedEx truck out there. And I'm like, are there more toys? Anyway, sorry. More things. Focus. Got to focus. Yeah, I got to focus on things. But second book, a lot of fun. There were some people who were making a low-budget movie, and they got one leather suit of armor from another maker, and they're like, God, we can't, how are we going to do this? And they were trying to figure out how to make it all look better, and they got my book, and I showed how to make something we called fleather, fake leather, and it's a piece of craft foam, double-sided duct tape, and another piece of craft foam. The problem with craft foam stuff is it rips so easily. Well, you reinforce it with the double-sided duct tape, and it actually is hard to rip. And you can doll it up to make it look like leather. And I went to a ferry event in Baltimore, and this guy who I'd never met comes up and goes, "Oh my God, Thomas Willeford." I'm like, "Do I owe you money?" And then they pull me over and say, "Look at this armor." I'm like, "That's really cool leather. Oh my God." And they said, "Yeah, we used your book to make our movie." And I was just trying not to cry and trying to be, all manly about it and everything. It was fun. They were such nice people. But yeah, so the second book actually got to be used for that. I'm gonna do back to this. I'm looking to see if anyone has a question. I have a few of your books. I'm not a kid. They've helped this noob. Hey, good, cool. I've written two books. I've also contributed to a bunch of other ones, because, again, I was an early adopter of steampunk. I thought it was fun back before you kids. Oh, I sound like such a millennial, which doesn't work because I'm 55 years old. That's because I drink the blood of small children. No, that's not how I stay young. Eddie's also here to censor me and tell me not to say certain things. Cool. My goggles are based on design. Thank you. I'm glad it worked. I actually am going to be doing, if I may plug myself a little bit, I'm going to start my YouTube channel. I'm going to start filming this next week. Got it all set up. Going to actually do it. And I'm going to start with projects from my books. And because the books were written like 10 years ago, and I've learned more now. I've learned other cool things. So like my goggles are now new and improved. So the base stuff from the goggles still great from the book, but I learned a few little tricks that would actually make them a little better. So I'll be announcing it on my Facebook and stuff like that. Beauty secrets. But yeah, and on my Instagram, see right here, there's my Instagram right there. I was told that all the cool kids have Instagram, so that's why I'm like, follow my adventures on Instagram. Anyway, other questions? Nah, nothing there. But I got to see Steampunk grow from. Well, here's an example. Years and years ago, I used to go to the Whitby Gothic event. I know it's hard to believe. I was a big old goth. I went to that thing for a long time, and one time I decided to make a big mechanical arm, which is one of the projects in my first book. And I had this British officer's jacket, and I had from when I was playing Space 1889. And I had this mechanical eye piece I made and everything, and I went over to Whitby, and I wore it. Nobody had done any steampunk at that event. Now, if someone has, please, I'd love to know, because I'm doing a little bit of history of steampunk. This was 2004, I believe. And as far as I know, nobody had done it. And it was stopping traffic. I was walking across the street, and people were like, "Who are you?" Oh my God, yes. And I was trying to get somewhere because I was really hungry. And I also wanted a pint. I'm trying to get across the street. And this guy, because of my outfit, and he said, "Sergeant Major!" And I turned around and said, "Sir!" And I turned, and there was this guy. He was, I believe, Methuselah's uncle. He was about 1,000 years old in cat years. And he was wandering up, and he had this old military outfit on. And he was a military engineer. And he came up, and he just started touching the arm and all that, and I almost burst into tears because he had this teary look in his eyes, and he looked at the jacket, which was perfect North Yorkshire unit, and he just was like, "I love what you did. You're still respecting," and so I bought him a pint, and we sat and chatted for a while. He was an engineer, and he also loved science fiction. So, but now steampunk has its own events there. And you've got the Whitby Gothic event, and then you've got the steampunk events also happening. Let's see. What is steampunk? Oh, God.
There you go.
Here's my favorite question. There's a guy named Dr. Jeff. Dr. Jeff is one of my favorite people. He does comic strips and stuff. A fellow physicist who decided to become an artist, which is one of my things I love about him. He also does a comic called Fetish Man. Look it up online, and you'll find his other stuff that way. And he said, I asked him, "What is steampunk?" And I did a video. Made up historic shite is what he said. And I thought, that is perfect. So that's steampunk's whatever you make it. Sort of. There are some things that just, I don't consider steampunk, but I also don't care. What steampunk is what my steampunk is one thing. That doesn't mean yours is illegitimate. You have something that's steampunk over here. Some people consider Fallout to be steampunk because it's an alternate history. Me, I just kind of, anything that was made after 1901, I don't care about, because that's when Queen Victoria died. It's very Victorian for me. Again, it's such a weird question because it's also, steampunk has become an umbrella for diesel punk and all the other things. So I don't tend to worry about it too much. I did get to talk to K.W. Jeter about it, though, which was awesome. He bought me a drink, and I was just like, oh my God, K.W. Jeter bought me a drink. Excellent man. Look up his work. But somebody... Yes, made up historic shite, exactly. Sourcing stuff. Someone asked me about sourcing stuff. That's my forte. Right now, normally I would be on a Sunday, but tomorrow, I would be going to a flea market. There's a flea market in Williams Grove, Pennsylvania. Acres of stuff. Pennsylvania is a great place to go flea marketing or yard sailing or any of that type of stuff. Also, what's that when people die in a estate sale? Estate sales. Pennsylvania has, I believe, the second or third oldest population in America. And old people, being one myself, do three things really well. They collect junk, they move to Florida, and they die. Those things they're really good at. The last two, they leave all the junk behind. And the younger people don't want to sell all that junk, so they take it to the flea market. And that's where I have... This room is all very Victorian and all stuff. Almost everything's from a flea market. I have done so much. I have done movies, TV stuff. Can you do this? Our budget is... Oh, yeah. Because I go to the flea markets and I buy shit. I buy stuff, sorry. And I'm willing to repair it. Learning to repair, awesome. I'm going to plug someone else about repairing. Go on to YouTube, look up My Mechanic, and then Restoration. He will take a crappy tool that I would throw away. And he's this German guy. And his favorite line is, I make a new one. If a screw is missing, he will make that screw. And I'm just looking at him. I have learned a bunch just watching him. And then that leads to other restoration artists that do amazing work. Let's go take a look at them. You'll start to think that maybe tools are a cool thing.
How can you get started in steampunk?
How can you get started in steampunk? Buy my books! Yay! They're available on Amazon right now. If you ever come up to me and say, will you autograph it? I'll be like, sure. It doesn't have to be expensive. Steampunk, mostly people think it's an expensive... second book. But dude, you got to collaborate with Phil Folio. Yes, I got to collaborate with Phil Folio. That was awesome. Phil's a great guy. Go to his Girl Genius. If you want to waste an entire week of your life catching up since 1990 something, reading a comic, go to Girl Genius. You'll cry. You'll wake up and go, what did I just do? But I think a lot of people are afraid of steampunk because there's a lot of gatekeepers. A lot of people going, eh. When I see a kid with, cardboard and stuff to make a mechanical arm, or he's made a ray gun out of stuff, I do not go, well, you should have done better. If someone asks my opinion to help them, if they ask my opinion, no matter what, I find the best part and I'd say, that's great. I'd never say, well, it's not as good as, that's not my job. That's a shitty job and I don't want it. So I encourage people, as a kid comes up and I go, that is the best use of toilet paper rolls I've ever seen. Onward, sir. Consignment stores are also a great place to get stuff. Yes. Thrift stores. I go to the thrift store down the street, and every once in a while, I've been minding my own business, looking at buying another set of blue jeans so I can destroy them at work, and I'll just see. There's a thrift store not far from here, including Salvation Army. Yes, Salvation Army kind of sucks in some ways, and don't like where some of it goes. Occasionally, I have bought stuff there. And we found, for my ex-girlfriend, this beautiful Victorian outfit. She shot in this thing, and people were like, where'd you get that dress? It was $20 at the thrift store. We do community aid here because it's massive, has everything. I've never walked out of community aid without something. By the way, blue jeans, here's a simple trick. Blue jeans are authentic to the Victorian era, especially 501s, Levi 501s with the button fly. When someone goes, you're wearing blue jeans, that's not steampunk. It's like, yeah, bite me. Yes, it is. So too bad. Little fellow stuff. Be sure to tune into Brian. Yes, at 1:30, Brian's going to be here. Brian Fadrush. Excellent man. Excellent maker. Watch his stuff. talking about turning hobbies into business. Oh, poor man. I know. Trust me. It's yeah. Turn your hobby into a business. You'll never work at. Yeah, you'll no. You know the reason I got into Vespas is I no longer had a hobby. I was just doing steampunk for a living, and after a while, I was just like, please, anything else. I love steampunk. I love doing it, but I needed to do something beside just steampunk all the time. Now I work on Vespas and play Fallout. And then I still do steampunk. I still love it. It's great. Other questions? It's not steampunk to say something is not steampunk. Yeah, I don't worry about my stuff being steampunk anymore. Vespa reference number 3 and 4. Yes. I don't worry about something being steampunk. I just make my art, and it fits in there. I like the aesthetic. It's yeah. My arm did end up on Castle. Let me see. Did I? No, I don't have the picture. I was going to pull up a picture. I had a picture of the arm on Castle. That was awesome. So I ended up on the episode of Castle. How did that happen? I was at San Diego Comic-Con minding my own business. And this lady comes up and goes, I love your steampunk work. I've seen other steampunk, but this is it. Where are you from? And I looked at her, and I looked at her card, and it said Raleigh Studios. And I realized that they do a lot of cool stuff. And I said, and I was like, I'm from Pennsylvania. I could see her be crestfallen. I said, but I'm here in L.A. I'll be in L.A. on Monday, in fact. And she went, okay, so she calls her boss. And said, oh, they can't make it on Monday. I said, oh, I'm going to be there all week. I was making this up as I go along. My girlfriend at the time was looking at me like, what the are you doing? And gave me a little a card. Said, use this card to get into the studio. 11 o'clock on Tuesday, don't be late. I said, okay. Because they were doing a steampunk episode of a TV show. They didn't tell me what it was. So my girlfriend's like, what? I said, well, I guess we're going to L.A. So I booked a hotel, the Hollywood Historic Hotel, because it's kind of cool. Turns out that Raleigh Studios is 3 blocks from Hollywood Historic Hotel. Serendipity. Yay. I showed up, and they lost their minds looking at all my stuff, because these are people who didn't get to go to San Diego Comic-Con. And I found out it was for the TV show Castle. So they bought a bunch of stuff right there. And they said, can you make some of this stuff? I said, oh, yeah, I've got the stuff at home. They're halfway made anyway. I was lying. I'm sorry. I know I should never lie. I went home, and I immediately started making stuff. Just throwing stuff together, making it. And they were buying it. And I was like, yeah, this is great. So finally, they said, look, we really want those mechanical arms, but we cannot afford to buy 2 of them. And I immediately said, oh, I can rent them to you. Really? Because they were $2,000 a piece at the time. They're now almost $3,000. There's a lot more work in them. And yeah. So I rented them to them. And it turned out that Captain Mal there wanted one. That's why that happened. That's why that scene seems so weird. He wanted to wear one. And they said, look, do you want to be an extra? I said, let me check. Hell yes. So Sarah Hunter and I flew out, and we got to be on the show. Well, sort of. Little story about that. They did hair and makeup on me. They treated me like really well, because I also did some consultation on it. I got a little consultant credit. So I got to meet Nathan Fillion. Got to have lunch with him and stuff like that, hang out, all this stuff. It was great. All my steampunk friends out there had a great time. And people were complaining that I was getting special treatment because they thought I was just another extra when they were, nepotism, that type of thing. It's like, no, and people who were wearing my stuff were complaining to people next to me. And I'm looking like, everything you're wearing is something I made. So that happened. It was awesome. They sent their arms back, everything. Love seeing you in Castle. And what's really funny is I had no beard, and if you watch the episode, you'll see this guy in a British officer's outfit wandering back and forth looking terribly confused. Because I was terribly confused. They kept telling me to do different things. I got loads of screen time. The worst part is they did this beautiful job, makeup and hair on Sarah. Gibson girl hair. Selma Hayek's hairdresser. Award-winning, Academy Award-winning hairdresser did Sarah's hair. And then they cut Sarah out almost completely. I'm sorry. It's like, oh my god, she looked great too. And all, she got a picture with Nathan Fillion and all that stuff. But it was really kind of fun. What items do you see at flea markets that I buy? Gauges, old parts, clocks, cuckoo clocks. Cuckoo clocks have some of the best gears. And people just throw them away. They're $10 for a cuckoo clock. I have a cuckoo clock upstairs that I managed to fix, so it's now working. It's sitting on the wall. But, I have murdered some clocks. Clocks for the gears. You look for shapes. Lamps that have a certain shape, they have a bulbous shape here and are long here, make great ray guns or maces or various things. Brass is great. Brass was often an ornamental metal at the time. It was also very easy to work. It's soft. It's more dense than steel, so it's actually heavier per volume. So when you're using it, think about that. But steel and nickel and all this stuff, it all existed. I like to now mix my metals up a little bit more. I used to do just brass and leather, but now I try to mix things up a bit. You can even get into Bakelite if you get later on. It's a form of plastic type substance. I'm trying to mix it up a lot more now. At first, it was brass and gears, and now I'm just like, hey, what's that tubing from? It looks authentic enough. One of the tricks I do to trick the eye is whenever I'm doing a steampunk thing, I seldom use Phillips screws. I only use flathead because the Phillips screws didn't get invented and in production till after 1901. And it's just one of those things you see and your eye catches it. And I use a lot of rivets and stuff. I hope I answered your question reasonably well. Castle when I rewatch. Yay! I have to make sure that...
What's your time?
Yeah, I got to check my time, see if I'm being... whenever you end the stream, it'll automatically go back to our we'll be right back screen, so no worries. Cool. Just making sure I'm not being told, hey, Thomas, get off. How long am I supposed to be on, if I may ask? Oh, thank you. Thank you. I think the details are what make steampunk. One of the reasons people like steampunk is all the details that they put in. Just little things, filigrees, even faking it, so the camera likes it. I think that's one of the things that makes it awesome. That era of making, it was you had Wallace or Morris telling you that things should be beautiful and useful, or both. Something on the schedule at noon. Thank you. I'll make sure I get off a little bit before that so they can ramp up. Somebody else messaged me. Who's messaging me? Yeah. Don't know who. Just making sure I'm taking care of everything. But there was so much ornamentation happening, and I like that. I love how that works into it. They had some pretty plain stuff too, but who wants to do that? That's no fun. And it was also an age of invention, so people were, science will accomplish everything. Some of what I love about Victoriana is the detail, yes. If you were to look around this room, you'd see a lot. They were detailing books because print was getting easier to make. So you could add detail without having somebody carving it in. That type of thing. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to show you Space 1889 for people who might be coming in later. This was the book that got me into steampunk and from Victoriana. So look it up. You can still buy them. Buy them online. I have all of them. No, they're not for sale. There's another Victoriana that'd be fun to play with. You could add the mad science if you wanted to. Ravenloft. I think they had one. They had a Ravenloft Victoriana. Look it up, and it's a Dracula during Dracula's time. By the way, Whitby Gothic, which also has a steampunk event, Whitby is where Dracula takes place. A lot of it is in Whitby. The ship that crashes in there, that happened. It was a different ship, and it was 10 years earlier, roughly 10 years earlier. The name, I think, was instead of Demeter, the Dimitri, and it beached itself, which is really odd if you look at Whitby Harbor. The ship would have had to go this way, make a sharp left, a sharp right, and another sharp left with nobody at the helm. So it was creepy. And you can see the Abbey of St. Mary's, which became Carfax Abbey. You see the graveyard that they supposedly played in. I've played in that graveyard. If you go to Whitby, it's a lovely little resort town in North Yorkshire. Victor! Hey! One of my favorite musicians just came on and said something. How y'all doing? What tools and gadgets do you recommend for someone starting out with making their own costumes? For example, I got a Cricut Maker for cutting niggly bits. Cricut Maker, I've never used a Cricut because I had a laser cutter. Yeah, and that's not to say you need a laser cutter, by the way. That's high end. First thing, if you're going to make stuff, clothing and all that stuff, of course, sewing machines. You can get sewing machines pretty cheap. You can get old ones pretty cheap. I recommend the old ones with the metal gearing in them. Last forever. Harder to get service, though. Balance out. If you're going to make stuff, the first thing, a Dremel. Beside, a couple screwdrivers and wrenches and stuff, a Dremel tool. Because you can cut, you can drill. It's a little harder. The next tool above a Dremel tool is to get a... Yes, Victor, I would love to have a beer with you soon. I wish I was going to be in England about this time. Not there. Anyway, thank you. Another thing I would recommend is a pillar drill or drill press. A drill press itself is a drill press. That's great. Yay, you can drill holes, and that's cool. You can take the drill bit out, put a buffing wheel in. It's now a metal buffer. You can put a grinder wheel on there. You can now grind. You can put... I put wire wheels in there and wire wheel old stuff off there. It's amazing stuff. I've also used it as an arbor press to crush rivets down perfectly. Very, very versatile thing. The next thing I would get is a bandsaw. You can buy a bandsaw. Everyone's like, oh, these are expensive. I have bought drill presses and bandsaws for $35 to $50 at flea markets, and they run. Either they run or they don't. You can play with them, and if you hear a lot of wobbling and stuff like that, that means the bearings have gone. Probably not going to use that one. But mostly they inherited this from someone who probably died or just decided they didn't want to work on it anymore, and they just want to sell it. And I end up with 3 or 4 of them. And Dremels don't take up a lot of room. Also, a drill press, if you get a tabletop drill press, you can put it under the table. You put it in the closet when you're not using it. I ran into something recently because I have a huge shop upstairs, really nice shop. Ran into this, and it was so nostalgic. It was a box, yay big. Actually, let me see. So I can go. It was yay big. And it said steampunk stuff on the side of it. That was it. I had a little steampunk stuff. This is going to be so cool. I'm going to make a few steampunk things. And now that's That's it. That's what I got. But you start somewhere. Learn. It's okay to start. A lot of people are intimidated. Never be intimidated. Be inspired or ignore people. That's it. Those are the options I have. I'm not intimidated by people. It's not because I'm so great. It's because I can't let that happen. I can't sit there going, oh my God, I'm intimidated. I can't do this. Because that just drives me crazy. I would never get out of bed in the morning. I don't want to get out of bed as it is, but I do. Actually, I wake up at 7. I work for myself, and I get up at 7. Last of my tea there. Yes, that was tea. But drill press and bandsaw, unfortunately, I don't have room for the bigger power tools. They make a little option for your Dremel to make a little drill press. If you can pick that up, it's pretty cool. You can, and then you mount your Dremel there. One of the problems with Dremel is one hand's holding the Dremel, so you're doing something. You're doing that with the Dremel. Now I have a flex shaft for mine, but you can clamp that down on the edge of the table. Get a rubber clamp or whatever, and then you can put your buffing wheels and your grinding wheels on there, and you can use both hands to keep the piece from flying off or have better control of it. I would recommend this highly. Very cool. I'll look for that. Yeah, the Dremel press. Great thing to have. Flex shafts. Oh yeah, see, it's a. Yeah. I'm gonna do 3 more minutes.
All right. So people ask questions.
So please ask questions. Best way to fail is to never try. Absolutely. It's okay to suck. Really. My first steampunk stuff, my early stuff that I thought was just I thought it was the bomb, as we used to say. Oh my God, I have cannibalized it. Nobody gets to see it. It is hideous. I made a mechanical arm, and I was so bad at doing things, I didn't even notice that I only put 3 fingers on the hand. I was like, oh, what did I do? How do I fix that?
Yeah, it's still upstairs.
It's still upstairs. I've cannibalized everything from the shoulder to... There's like a little piece of fingers, and that's it. Because I've reused that stuff to make better stuff. It's okay to suck for a while. And we all start. Nobody comes out. Nobody dives in and does it. I rebuilt... Here's a Vespa thing. I rebuilt the engine on my Vespa, and I was so proud of myself. And I thought, this is great. I put it in my bike. The bike looks cool. I went riding, and I heard a hideous noise. Bang, 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 bang. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. And the engine wouldn't start. And then when it started, oh, my God. I found out that I made a huge mistake.
Oof.
I thought I was so proud. I went to the Dunning-Kruger School of Auto Mechanics, and I fixed it. No, I forgot to replace a part that couldn't handle the new things I did to the engine. I upped the displacement. I made things a little hotter and stuff. And the wrist pin soldered itself to the inside of the piston. Ah! And if you're going to have a failure of that magnitude, that's the best one. I fixed it after admitting I was wrong and sucking at it for a bit. Now I'm working. And in fact, when I'm done with this and helping Eddie with a project, I'm going to be going back to my shop and working on the next Vespa. What a great tip. Didn't answer yours yet? Isn't a problem. And when it is, you can look at Makerspace. I'm sorry, I didn't answer. Could you repeat your question, KP? If you do, I promise I will answer it. I'll take a little extra time if needed.
Let's scroll down.
Let me see. I have to scroll up, actually.
Yeah, you should be able to scroll to the question.
Let me see if I can. Sorry, I'm doing my own tech here. Letting Eddie have a life. Sorry, going down. Okay. What projects am I working on now? Let's see. What am I working on now? Actually, I'm working on the Fallout Vespa. I'm rebuilding the engine. Our panels together. Poisonous Victorian. My favorite Poisonous Victorian project Hello, Eddie. Eddie is awesome. Wallpaper. Green wallpaper. It was, you could lean against it enough and get heavy metal poisoning off of it. And I just thought it was, and everyone loved that shade of green. We have some tile on the mantle over here that's that's that shade of green, done with cyanide, if I remember right. And it was like, yeah, that's horrible. That's my favorite Victorian product. Yep, that green for the win. Hold on, there's another thing here. There was a question I was answering and I forgot. Sorry. What project am I working on now? Yeah, copper arsenic. It was arsenic, yeah. Not cyanide, arsenic. What am I working on now? Like I said, I have this bike to do. I'm working on my house, my big Victorian house. I'm doing a lot of repairs on it because I have time to do it. I don't have time to do it. I have other things I need to do too, but that's a thing I can do. It's socially responsible. I'm not calling in someone to do it. I just did a bunch of plumbing. Our outside hose piping had disintegrated because the house was built in the 1880s. And we replaced that. Edwin was an excellent assistant. I've got to fix the floor in my bathroom. Steampunk stuff, I'm actually rewiring the Steampunk car. Jake Von Slat owned this car. I ended up with this car, which I'm grateful for. But the wiring tried to catch on fire and kill me. I managed to beat it into submission. And the car now needs a complete rewire. Thankfully, I've got the whole wiring harness ready to go. So after I'm done rebuilding the Fallout Vespa for some photo shoots, that'll happen after we're all allowed to talk to each other in person, I will be rewiring the Steampunk car, and I plan on taking a cross-country or at least long-distance trip in the Steampunk car. If I can get a small trailer to haul the bike behind it, that'd be even more awesome, but the Steampunk car is going to be it. It looks like I'm out of time. It's almost 11. It's 11:53.
Yeah, you want to give them time to set up the other one.
Yeah, I want to give time for other people. If you look up Steampunk car, Jake Von Slat or Von Slat, you'll see pictures of the Steampunk car online. Because I don't have a picture right here. Anyway, I am gonna go. I want you all. This is how I end all my videos. I want you all to go forth and make incredible things. And thank you very much for stopping by. Thank you. Yay. This little thing says stop streaming. Bye.